And we are now live.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. Today is April 15th, 2021, and this is the Freeport Regional Water Authority Board of Directors meeting. And can we please have Amanda roll call and protocol?
Yes. Good morning, Directors Coleman.
Present.
Natoli.
Here.
Patterson.
Present.
Kennedy. And you have a quorum.
Great.
And I will read our little announcement. In compliance with directives of the county, state, and Center for Disease Control and Prevention, this meeting is hosted by Blue Jeans. In-person attendance is closed to the public. Temporary meeting procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. Members of the public are encouraged to make public comment during the meeting. When the chairperson opens public comments for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, members of the public will have an opportunity to make a comment at that time. Each agenda item will remain open until the public comment period is closed for that specific item, including off-agenda matters. Please send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.net, include the meeting date and agenda item or off-agenda item. You may also mail written comments to the clerk's office at 700 H Street, Suite 2450, Sacramento, California, 95814. Include the meeting date and agenda item number or off-agenda item. Again, listing your contact information is optional. All written comments are distributed to board members and filed in the meeting record. It is the chairperson's discretion to read aloud public comments. And that is it.
Great. Thank you very much, Amanda. At this time, we're on item 1, which is comments for public regarding matters not on the agenda. Do we have anybody to speak to any items not on the agenda?
There is nobody for off agenda.
Thank you. That moves us then on to item 2, which is the approval of the April 9th, 2020 action summary from the previous meeting. And that says 2020. That doesn't make any sense. Well, actually, January 14th, 2021, I guess would be the previous meeting. And so, are there any changes to the minutes?
John, if you go back into the minutes, it indicates that I was absent from a meeting. I think that meeting was last April. I don't know when it was, but I don't remember being absent.
No,
In my notes,
I think what's showing, Bill, John, this Don, I think what's showing is that on page 1, it's the meetings from the January 14th meeting, but we took action in January to approve the minutes from the previous April.
Yeah,
that's item
right.
2. Yeah, so Bill was there for this one.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
So what we
you
need,
can correct those minutes.
we'll correct them for the January 14th meeting.
Yeah, I show all members were present. Were you just absent during one item or were you there at roll call?
I think he was absent at roll call and he came in.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, because I do show later on in the meeting that Mr. Patterson was present. So it was just a couple of items. Were you late, Mr. Patterson, just a little bit?
I don't remember that I was late, but
I believe you
I know it was
signed in
at
a
the
couple
meeting.
minutes after we began, Bill.
Yeah.
So we can just change them to reflect the fact that Bill was in attendance.
And the votes show that. Items 9 and
Yeah.
10 on the next page show that he voted on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and we
move
show.
approval.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second from Bill?
Yes. Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Any further dialogue? If none, if we could please have roll call then.
Yep. Coleman,
Yes.
Natoli,
Aye.
Patterson,
Yes.
Kennedy, absent. All right, and motion passes.
Thank you very much. That moves us on to item 3, which is the consideration of the adoption of the Freeport Regional Water Authority fiscal 2022 budget. Is there a presentation, David?
Yes, thank you, Director Coleman. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I would draw your attention to the meeting package where we have details in the budget for your review. And I wanted to acknowledge Forrest, of course, for helping prepare the fiscal year 22 budget. And as you can see under agenda item 3 in the board package, it starts off with a memo. I would highlight the overall budget, which is proposed to be just over $5.9 million. This would be approved by resolution by the board if it's acceptable. And a couple things, or 3 things actually, to highlight for you while you review it. First, the year-over-year budget and the operating budget, year-over-year operating budget, is more or less similar to last year, in that we did absorb large increases in our insurance premiums and energy charges last fiscal year. But between FY20 and FY21, those increases have already been absorbed. So we're not, even though those unit costs do go up for many functions, we've already absorbed those costs last year, so we're not seeing a year-over-year increase in that part of the operating budget. Now, having said that, there is a large contingency item in the FRWA operating budget, which would be used if EBMUD decides to use the project later this year, and I'll get into more details on that in the next agenda item when we talk about water supply. But just for the purposes of the budget, just wanted to highlight that the way that we've constructed the budget is there's a base budget which more or less assumes that we operate as we have for the last several years with Sacramento County using the pump station and facilities for their use, while EBMUD has not. That's the base budget. There is almost just shy of a $3 million contingency increase, which would be used to largely pay the energy costs should EBMUD use the FRWA facilities. And I believe a small portion of that contingency also includes additional costs that would be incurred by Sacramento County for additional pumping on their side if the dry conditions continue. So that's how we've constructed the operating budget. The base budget year over year, very, very similar, even though we've seen recent cost escalation in energy and insurance premiums. That does not really affect the base budget year over year. However, there is a large contingency item in there that would be exclusively reserved for additional pumping needed if the dry conditions continue. The third part of the budget I would highlight for the board is the capital budget remains small. The last few years it's been smaller, and that's because we did complete a nearly $3 million repair to all 8 of the pumps at the intake at the river. That's been completed. We'll talk about other capital work later on in the agenda, but for the purposes of the FY22 budget, on the capital side, it remains relatively small at, I think, $500,000. Most of that is for contingency items. If certain things happen, we want to make sure we have the funds available to take care of them. But that is historically speaking, that's a smaller capital budget. I just wanted to remind the board that it may not always be that small, but we're in a little bit of a down cycle right now with our capital program and upgrades. It was higher a few years ago. It's low right now, but if something does come up with our pipelines and other facilities, we're going to need to increase the capital budget at a later date. But for the moment, it's relatively low. There's details, many details offered in the package. You can see the summary in Table 1. You can see breakouts of the operating budget in Tables 2A and 2B. 2A is more or less at the activity level. 2B gets down into the object and sub-object level for substantially more detail. And then Table 3 breaks out the capital budget so you can see what that $500,000 would be used for in fiscal year 22 if we needed it. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions on the budget. Forrest and I will be able to respond to them and then consider the resolution.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions of David or Forrest on the proposed 2022 budget? Don or Bill?
No questions, John. I'm prepared to move it when you're ready.
Okay, then we'll consider that a motion to move. Is there, Bill, are you a second?
Yes, I'm a second.
Okay, in that case, if we could please have roll call vote.
Yes. Coleman,
Yes.
Natoli,
Aye.
Patterson,
Yes.
Kennedy, and motion passes with those members present.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the budget update. And now, David, you get to, on item 4, explain why we may be needing to trigger the use of the increase in funding for Freeport for this year on item 4.
Thank you, Director Coleman. Yeah, this I'll start off with some basic hydrology in our watershed, and then get into the conversations in the boardroom in a moment with our policy decisions. But first, with the hydrology in our watershed, in the Upper McElmy watershed, what we're looking at so far, and by so far I mean mid-April, with some eye to the next 2 weeks in terms of the forecast, we're looking at either the second or the third driest year on record. And locally, where we get about 10% of our supply with our East Bay watersheds, I try not to exaggerate things like this, but so far the numbers don't lie. We are looking at our driest year ever in the East Bay foothills, where we have several reservoirs. So this is not a good year. If it were not, last year was dry, of course. But if it were not for the very wet year we had a couple years ago that really gave us good storage going into water year 2020, water year 2021 would be even worse. But the hydrology this year has been brutal. So that leaves us with a carryover storage for our total system storage that puts us in a range of somewhere between 450,000 acre feet, maybe as high as 500,000 acre feet, depending on what we might get in May and June. That level of storage is critical for East Bay MUD because it brings the conversation into the boardroom for the board to consider whether or not they want to declare a drought emergency and trigger our supplemental water usage of the Freeport facilities. There's been several conversations with our board about the year as the year has developed, and probably the most crucial conversation will be in 2 weeks when the board meets again on April 27th. And would consider formally declaring a drought emergency and formally giving direction to staff to pursue supplemental water through Freeport. We're in sort of the gray zone in terms of being a clear cut. And I'm, Director Coleman, Director Patterson, I don't want to speak for the board, but it doesn't seem to me that the hydrology is obvious one way or another so far. We're kind of on that fence line between being a straightforward call to bring in the supplemental water or not. And I, certainly defer to you to add your comments. So we'll wait and see how all of that turns out. If we did trigger Freeport use, we would initiate our diversions during the summer, and they may continue during the fall through early winter. We've already communicated with the Bureau of Reclamation in terms of what supply we want. It would range between 50 and 73,000 acre feet that we would divert. We have, through coordination with Sacramento County staff, the facilities are ready to go, and very proud that we've kept up the facilities in working order, even though we haven't used our diversions in, I think, 5 or 6 years. So downstream of the Freeport facilities, there are a host of other things that need to go right for East Bay MUD to bring this water into our service area, and we've already checked out those, including conversations with SMUD and our shared use of the Folsom South Canal. So all systems are go. We're just waiting for more details on the hydrology and direction from the board. With that, Director Coleman, I would pause and just see if you want to put you or Director Patterson want to put any final touches on those thoughts.
Sure, I'll speak real quickly, and then Bill can speak as well. Yeah, Don and others, we're going to be making a decision in 2 weeks. We're trying to figure out. I think we need 3 inches of precipitation in the upper watershed, which will make the difference in how many 1,000 acre feet of storage, carryover storage we have going into fall, which is our measurement time frame. I know it snowed up there yesterday. I don't know how much was received, probably a minimal amount. And so we're literally trying to gauge with the latest rainfall and snowfall amounts as to what direction we're going to take. And I expect that we'll have a healthy debate at our board on what we need to do. Bill, do you have any comments?
Only that, and John, I mostly agree with what you have reported. As most of you know, I guess I'm looking at the supply side vigorously, looking at early. The board hadn't made a decision, but I'm always there because as a supplier, I've got to have water.
Right. Cool. Thank you. Don, do you have any questions?
No, I know it's critical, and it's interesting that you just said you measure it by trying to get some additional inches of precip here in the mid to late spring, but for certainly for your entity and for all of us as Californians, though, I mean, it's just I was in the foothills over the weekend, and it's just so dry, and yet, as you said, there was snow yesterday, so and we can still get some showers. Although when we're looking at 90 degrees potentially on Sunday down here in the valley, I don't know, it just doesn't bode very well. So obviously having the project for the purposes that it was designed for, to have the critical backup for for us as a part of this agency, I think that's very important. So I think it's going to be challenging for all of us throughout the state, whatever region we're in, but to the point, it's been half a dozen years since you've had to utilize it last, but that's what it's there for. So anyway, I wish us all well, I guess, but certainly your board and folks up and down the state that are trying to manage the scarce resource that is even scarcer this year.
Yeah. Thank you. And Amanda, since this is under board business and recommended action, vote to accept the report?
No, because it's just a verbal report.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, it's a receipt and file.
Okay, thank you. Since there are no other comments or questions, David, thank you very much for the update on EBMUD's water supply. That leads us to Forrest on Sacramento County update.
Oh, really fast. For the record, I just want to make it clear we've had no public comment for items 2, 3, and now number 4. Moving on to item 5.
Thank you very much, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Forrest?
All right, thank you. This is Forrest. Director Kennedy had a question last time about how much our water supply use increased since the pandemic, and we did do that study, and we found out that over the past year since the pandemic started, we did March to March, that water use did increase by 12%. So with the people and college kids coming home, water use, indoor water use, did increase quite a bit. We've been notified that our USBR contract is being cut back to 55% of prior year's usage. So in looking at our conjunctive use program, we're probably going to be relying on a little bit more surface water this year. And just to give everyone a kind of idea of what our percentage of surface water use was, since 2013, we used about 30% surface water. During the drought in 2014, we used 20%. 2015, it dropped to 19%. But then since 2016, it started increasing to a high of about 50% surface water usage in 2019. But in 2020, it's dropped down to 40%. So with the anticipated cutbacks with our surface water supply, we'll probably be relying on a little bit additional groundwater, but we can't project as far as how far that will drop. Will it drop down to the low 2015, or will it, maintain at about 30%? So that's something that we're trying to study right now and looking and projecting what we're going to do for our water supply usage and our water supply contracts. So again, we do 60-40 surface water, groundwater. We do know that we go to groundwater on drier years, but we also understand that the state may still implement water restrictions. So we're trying to maintain and stay ahead of where that's going to head. We're getting ready for our possible drought messaging, and we're looking at possible implementation of the water shortage contingency plan, depending on what the state does after the final snow survey. And of course, Supervisor Natoli, Michael will be bringing that to the board if there's any action that we need to implement that program. So that's kind of where we are at this standpoint as far as projecting forward.
Thank you. Don, anything to add?
No, I think again, our reliance on the conjunctive use approach here for, the suburban and urban users gives us that additional flexibility, but I trust that people will understand the seriousness of the drought. But obviously, as you go into conservation measures, that gets people a bit anxious, and you folks know as well, not better.
Yeah.
And so, again, but it's necessary. Although I think some of the cutbacks we had the last go around obviously were a little difficult for folks to stomach. But at any rate, again, we just need to pray for some late rains, I guess.
Okay. Bill, any questions?
If I can just follow.
Go ahead.
Just follow up, sorry, Director Coleman. And so our messaging has been, keep using water efficiently. We're trying to avoid drought and cutbacks at this point until we actually get something from the state. So I just want to follow up with that comment that we're trying to change the message without getting people up in arms about those type of issues. So that's something we're trying to decide.
Exactly. Bill, any questions or comments regarding Sacramento County Water Agency?
No.
Okay, well, I wish you guys luck as we need luck. Everybody needs luck in the state right now, so hopefully we'll get it through. That'll take us on then to item 6, which is also the Freeport Regional Water Project update. It's the verbal report on 3 areas. Who's going to cover that?
Director Coleman, this is Dave. I'll take this on with assistance from Forrest. And Renee or Alma, if we could get the photographs in view, that would be great. If not, we'll proceed just verbally. But if you can show those, that'd be a wonderful visual aid while we walk through the status of a few of these projects. So while those photos may or may not appear, just to go over these, so the under agenda item 6, two out of the 3 of these projects are substantially complete. The biggest one was the intake pump repair, which the board has been hearing updates on this periodically for the last several years. What we've done with almost $3 million is we have upgraded the pump assemblies to reduce the excessive vibration that would have, and then go to that's the next one. Can you go to the slide? Just leave it right there because I'll get to that in a moment. Either one's fine. So we actually don't have any photographs of the pump project, even though it is the largest one. But just wanted to report to the board that all 8 pumps have been returned and assembled and reinstalled. So we're fully functional at this point. The excessive vibration problem has been solved, and we're pleased that all this work has been done and carefully orchestrated over the last several years. So that's done. Very proud about that. The photographs that we're showing here now are a capital project that we completed. I think this was roughly $250,000. I wanted to compliment the staff at Sacramento County who managed this project and also did the engineering. It was very efficiently done and very smooth. And what we're showing here in this intake wet well fall protection project, you can see the photograph on the left. The view is showing from the intake bay looking outwards towards the river. And what this is, the red circles are depicting in the before photograph is a large gap between the catwalk and the outer structure of the pump station, where screens are installed. So staff would have to climb over this barrier shown on the left and jump over to the outside while conducting screen maintenance, which was obviously a precarious situation and a safety issue. So the last couple of years with the engineering completed and the management of the contractor, you can see the photograph on the right where things have been modified. Now there's grating there for staff to safely walk and get to the outside of the pump station to perform that maintenance work. So very glad this is done and very pleased with how Sacramento County staff managed the project.
Did we get a patent on, David, did we get a patent on the design, so the next time somebody designs an intake facility, they'll do it the right way?
Well, you know, it's interesting you mention that, because as Forrest knows, we've had more than one inquiry about our intake on the Sacramento River from the state of California who are contemplating something. So there's all sorts of aspects of our design that people are interested in, because this is a large intake on the Sacramento River. And as you know, the screens work. They keep the fish safe, and we get our water. And there's a lot of, and you know, as we'll see shortly, the pump station looks pretty good. So there's a lot of things that I think people would be interested about our design.
And
I'm surprised
and
Cal
add,
never stepped in on this.
Was there any additional comment? I'm not sure I heard Director Coleman.
No, I was just making a comment. Surprised that Cal Ocean never stepped in on the safety side without the grate there.
Yes, good point.
Good point. Yeah, it was discovered. This is Forrest, and that's what led to the project. I will just add that I am getting inquiries from the state Delta, because some people on the state Delta Commission who want to look at our architecture of what we included in the project. So we're kind of sending them some pictures of what we've done, because I think they have some concerns about their possible project and what it's going to look like based on where they have to put their intake facilities.
So thank you, Forrest. If we could show the other photograph now. Thank you. So this is on the outside, on the deck of the intake facility, looking landward with the river at your back. And what this is showing is damage to the exterior facade of the pump station that was caused by a truck vehicle fire probably a couple of years ago. Just in short, as the board is aware, just about every aspect of this pump station has distinct and unique architectural features and materials. So this is not a standard thing to fix. That's what makes the pump station so special, and why we're so proud of it. So just letting the board know that we will repair this to restore the outside facade. This would be visible from the river. Pretty much no other way the public would see this, but unless they were going by boat. But we will restore this. These are custom aluminum. I think they're made of aluminum, right, Forrest?
Yes.
You know, so these are custom shaped, sized, and finished aluminum panels. And so it's just not that simple to go down to the metal supply warehouse and buy new materials. But we will restore the pump station. I think the concrete will probably be fine, but we really want to make the facade look good and restore the splendor of the exterior of the pump station. So we'll try to finish that with the budget we have in fiscal year 22.
Okay.
That's all I have, Director Coleman.
Any questions on the update on intake repairs?
No, it's a good report. Good report.
Okay. So that covers all three areas, David?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions, Don, or comments?
No, John, thanks.
There's no public comments for item number 6.
Okay, that'll move us on to item number 7 then, which is the Treasurer's Report for December 31st, 2020.
Hi, this is Robbie Haney at EBMUD. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly, Robin.
Okay, great. So good morning. Like I said, this is Robbie from EBMUD, Treasurer of FRWA, and we have here the Treasurer's Report for the 3-month period through December 2020 in the packet. It's pretty straightforward. Revenues were $213,000, which is largely from member reimbursement payments. Expenses were $329,000, and then that's operating expenses. Capital expenses were $481,000, and the cash balance is healthy. It's at $2 million at the end of the year. So that's just a brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions on it.
Thank you, Robbie. Don or Bill, any questions of Robbie on the Treasurer's report?
No questions here.
Don, no question?
Do we need
No,
a
Don,
motion
no.
to accept the report?
We
Yeah,
do need a motion to accept, yes.
And I second that.
I was so moved.
It's been moved and seconded, first by Director Patterson, second by Director Natoli. No other comments? Can we please have roll call?
Okay. Coleman,
Yes.
Natoli,
Aye.
Patterson,
Yes.
Kennedy, and motion passes with those members present.
Great, thank you so much on that. That moves us on to item 8, which is the San Joaquin County Water Rights Status Conference. This is a verbal report as well.
So, Director Coleman, Janice Snyder, who is the FRWA General Counsel, will provide an update on this. But just as a reminder, there was a status conference hearing last month, which was attended by FRWA as a party and Sac County as a party. EBMUD did not attend. We are not party to this application. So
Okay.
Janice can give us, we talked about this at the last board meeting about San Joaquin County's pursuit of water off the American River, which has been going on for quite some time with relatively little progress. And Janice, can you tell us where we stand now?
Yes, absolutely. So as David said, this application from San Joaquin County has been pending since 2008. And in 2014, there were discussions with EBMUD, and so that's why EBMUD is no longer party to this hearing in front of the Water Resources Control Board. So on March 16th, we had a hearing on whether or not the board was asking whether or not they should, whether or not both the water agency and FRWA wanted to continue with their protests and other parties that are part of the proceeding, and whether or not San Joaquin was still pursuing their application. I appeared on behalf of FRWA, and Aaron Ferguson appeared on behalf of the water agency to continue with those protests. And ultimately, what was at issue at this hearing was whether or not the application, due to the decades that have passed, should be canceled, rejected, or denied by the control board. Whether there should be a hearing set to determine whether or not it should be canceled, denied, or rejected, or whether or not a status conference should be set 18 to 24 months down the road so that San Joaquin County could show any progress. The basis sort of the county's, San Joaquin County's presentation really was a history of their water rights, not directly related to what their application to access the Freeport water facility, not really directed towards that. So they kind of did this big presentation that was not directly related to the issue, while at the same time admitting that there had been very little progress in any discussions with the water agency or FRWA about access to the facility. So we are still waiting for the hearing officer's decision. And it's my understanding that as of yesterday, it hasn't been posted, and so we're just waiting. And so those are basically the three sort of options: is whether or not they'll just outright reject it, which, just to give my opinion, I doubt that they will do that. I think the hearing officer is more likely and probably most likely to set a hearing to fully sort of hear the parties out on whether or not the application should be canceled, rejected, or denied, and kind of do more of a full-blown hearing before they do that. And so we'll just continue to update you, but that's sort of where we're at right now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Janice. Don or Bill, do you have any questions of Janice?
No questions.
No questions at this time.
Okay, Janice, thank you very much on the update on San Joaquin County water rights status.
You're welcome.
And there's
That
no
moves us.
public comments.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. I
You're
keep
welcome.
jumping ahead. That moves us on to to follow up on prior board member comments. I know that Forrest, you already brought up one thing that was asked by Mr. Kennedy, but there may be others.
Yeah, so Director Coleman and members of the board, just a couple of other things. And the first one is related directly to what Janice just spoke about. There have been various attorneys meetings and strategy conversations in the last couple of months to prepare for the status conference hearing related to San Joaquin County's water right on the American. So I guess one of the follow-up items that came from the board meeting, our last board meeting in January, was whether or not the board wanted a written memo on this that may have not already been provided by Janice. So Janice, I know you've been directly preparing memos for litigation matters for the board, and I don't recall if you have sort of summed up this present matter for the board, or maybe the board could express whether or not they do want a memo from Janice either now or perhaps after we hear from the administrative hearing officer about the status of San Joaquin's water right. So that would be maybe a question I would pose to the board is when do you want a memo on this matter, and whether or not you want one at all.
Dawn, I'll ask you first, and then Director Patterson, if you'd like a memo.
Well, I think at some point, if it's concluded, or maybe, once, there's some termination by the court, whatever that is, that'd probably be good for the record. But, obviously from time to time, some of us have contact with folks in San Joaquin County and so forth. And, I think just knowing kind of the background, to have that information that's, shared, certainly not of a confidential nature, but to have that as a, memorialized, in writing, I think would be helpful. So at some juncture, I don't think I don't need anything right now, though.
Bill?
No, I would agree. I just think we need to follow that closely and make sure we're on top of anything they're doing, because we really don't want any major impact coming out of this. The reduction doesn't mean it didn't go away. It just means it's taking place in another form. And the actual impact depends on how large the one tunnel they're talking about environmentally approving is. So watch it close.
Yeah, I would just say I don't need anything right now, but if there's any changes, twists or turns in the negotiations or legal maneuvers, I'd be curious to know, and that can be in a written form.
Okay, thank you for that direction. And so, Janice, I would propose that after the administrative hearing officer reveals her decision, which could happen any day, maybe we write a quick memo update to the board, letting them know the status of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other items on follow-up to prior board comments, or under the manager's report, or anything else under the manager's report?
Director Coleman, one other item I would mention is that there's been ongoing interest by the board in terms of gauging the public's interest in FRWA, whether it's through the website or through tours or other types of inquiries that come into the public information officer to Sac County. So I think Forrest is best able to speak on that to help the board understand or appreciate the level of interest that we get out there.
Yes, generally we get a lot of repeat customers. New calls, I mean, I may get one call a month from my PIO. We don't have a click tracker on the website. We can certainly add that, but for the most part, it's other agencies who are looking at our facility, trying to learn about how we designed it, how do our screens work, what do we have to consider, what was the process that we had to go through to get the facility permitted, and the testing requirements. The general public, I think, in the past 2 years has been generally maybe a Boy Scout troop or a teacher who wants to bring some students out. We do a regular tour with the United States Bureau of Reclamation, and we also do a regular tour for some of the elected officials in the legislature, and for both Sacramento County and EBMUD. and also as part of an aqua tour that when Aqua's in town. So that's generally it. The public in general has not been very interested. We've had a very good relationship with the residents. We have not heard a lot of complaints about the operation of the facility from the residents that are near the Buffaloes, and we coordinate well with the city. But like I said, the public information officer coordination with me is on a very limited basis. And if it's been a previous person that's visited the facility, they generally contact me directly. So that's kind of where we're at. We're being a good neighbor. We're not causing really any issues with the surrounding properties, and I think everyone's kind of, I don't want to say they've forgotten that we're there, but in general, it's other people in the water business that would contact us to discuss the facility.
Okay.
That's all I have, Director Coleman.
Cool. Thank you so much. There's no other comments from the public, correct, Amanda?
There's no comments from the public.
Okay, I caught it this time, almost at the end of the agenda.
Mhm.
That moves us on to item 10, which is director comments, reports, and announcements. Don, do you have anything that you'd like to submit or provide?
No, nothing further. I just would note that Director Kennedy had a conflict with the Council of Governments meeting this morning, so that's why he was unable to participate. And he may have alerted you to that already, but I just wanted to be sure he, would note that's why he's absent today.
Okay, thank you so much. Bill, any comments or questions?
Well, no, not really for this body, but I think I wanted to mention David Briggs' participation in the Vice President's visit to East Bay MUD, which was hosted by East Bay MUD at the Upper San Leandro water treatment plant, which is in my district. And I wanted just to congratulate him on his input and the kinds of things that occurred during that meeting. As you know, that has to do with the president's entry now, which is on the table, and they're meeting about infrastructure, which really permeates the whole state. And the fact that it all got started in Oakland at East Bay MUD for us, was a great opportunity and honor. And I just wanted to say that and alert people to David's participation in that.
Thank you very much, Bill. I just have a couple of comments. One is, Amanda, do we have the date of the next meeting for Freeport Regional Water Authority? It's probably on my calendar, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, the next meeting would be July 8th.
Okay. And that's one of the ones normally sometimes they're canceled and stuff, but we'll see if it is or not. Thank you. And then I just also wish everybody until July 8th, if we meet a good spring, early summer, and hopefully between now and then we'll get 5 inches of rain.
Not all at one time, but get it, yeah.
Yeah, it can be over a couple of weeks if it wants, but just enough to get us over the hump, so to speak. So with that, I would conclude that the meeting is over, unless there are any other comments. And I'd like to thank Amanda and her staff for setting up the new Blue Jean way that we're operating. It was very quick, easy, and efficient. Yeah. And Don and Bill and David, Amanda, and Forrest leading into a good late spring, early summer. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, take care. Bye, Bill. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.